Hello, it's a beautiful winter Wednesday morning, and greetings from Dubai. I can see we have strong impact creators joining us from across the globe. What do you type from which country or place you're tuning in today? Oh, that's wonderful. I can see we can have a lot of people from other countries. Yeah, UAE, greetings from Dubai. Beautiful. Wow, that's an amazing audience that we have today. Thank you. WEXPO is a digital movement that invites women led SDG initiatives to showcase their amazing projects and themselves to this world. This is for the you in you. Please do scan the QR code and join the movement or go into www.wexpoworld.com and we have the first 1,000 subscribers to get you free 1 year membership. And we'd love to hear from each one of you. Today, as we enter our second webinar on how to build coherent framework from sustainable businesses is a very, very important aspect for every business today. We need to have strong leaders. We women are natural nurturers of sustainable development goals. And our expert today, whom I've known for over 15 years, has assisted build robust policies and frameworks for government and private sector. Please welcome Jahanara Sajjad Ahmad, FCA, a fellow member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Pakistan. He has over 21 years of post qualification experience in finance, audit, Islamic finance, and corporate governance. She has worked at the Dubai Parks and Resorts and Haukuma at the Institute of Corporate Governance with the DIFC in Dubai and Directors, Security Market Division at the Securities and Exchange Commission of Pakistan. I've seen her build strong policies and frameworks for governments. And here we have her today talking about her experience and education put together. Jahanara has also worked with Morrison Stoneham Chartered Accountants in London and served on the boards of Lind Pakistan Limited, an audit oversight board, and Forgy Cement Limited as a director. She currently serves as an independent director at Muri Brewery Company Limited and is the executive director corporate governance at Bijoji Group of Companies. Janara, the floor is open to you. And our guests today from all over the world would love to hear on how to build a coherent work framework for sustainable businesses. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Sagarika. Thank you very much for the introduction. Thank you very much to the WXPO team for having me here. It's an honor and a privilege for me to be able to share my thoughts and my experiences along the journey of corporate governance and what I have developed different frameworks in theory, but now I'm practicing the frameworks that I have developed. So I truly hope that our audience can gain something from what I will be presenting today. So if you permit,
Thank you
Sagi,
so much, Janara. Thank you so much, Jana. I'll leave the floor open to you to take this conversation forward.
Thank you. So as Sagarika mentioned, the topic of my presentation today is how to build a coherent framework for sustainable businesses. So if we could just move to the next slide. Yes, could we? Okay. So I would just like to know how many, I just want to know the mix of the audience here. If how many of you are entrepreneurs or if you belong to family businesses, small and medium enterprises, or do you work for companies which are listed or unlisted? So I can then structure my talk around that particular business. So if we could just run a poll or maybe have you comment in the chat and the Wexpo team can let me know. We'll probably give it a minute for you all to respond. Yes, so please let us know in the comments which business segment do you belong to. Oh, so we have an entrepreneur and another entrepreneur, and we have people logging in from Italy, UAE. That is amazing. All right. So it's basically mostly, I would say, single member companies, SMEs. Okay. So we have seven SMEs and entrepreneurs. Okay. So the mix of the audience is okay. We have a multinational company here as well. So we have a good mix of audience here. All right. So I will cover all these topics then. Thank you very much. We are still having audience replying. We have civil engineer, Beatrice. Welcome to the talk. All right, we have the IT sector as well, which is a company. Okay, thank you. So, thank you for your feedback. So, I know exactly what the sort of mix of the audience that we have. So, I'll just structure my talk around uh, these companies. So, if we could just move on to the next slide, please. All right. So, if I were to ask you, what does sustainability mean to you? Could you let us know what sustainability means to you and your business, the business that you're currently in? You can let us know this in the comments section. All right, we'll wait a few more seconds for everyone to respond. Okay, so let me begin with what sustainability means to me. Okay, here we go. We have a comment here. Continuous success and growth. Yes, Dana, I agree. It is continuous success and growth. Yes, that is a good way of defining sustainability. Very good. All right. Yes. So sustainability, it means a long-term growth, like Dana pointed out, and we all need, when we set up a business or when we join a company, we all look towards sustainable development and growth. Even the shareholders these days, the shareholders who would invest in our companies, they are not just looking for short-term returns in the form of dividends. They want dividends to be given to them every year. Plus, they are also looking to increase their shareholder wealth, the capital value of their investment over a long term period. So, to me, there are three factors which are very important towards having sustainable businesses, whether we are an SME, a single member company, a listed company, a public company, entrepreneur, or any other private limited company. These three factors, in my experience, play a large role towards achieving sustainability within our business. So the first one is human capital. Then we have external surroundings and our stakeholders, and of course, cash flows and profits. Those are also very very important for a business to achieve sustainability. If we could move to the next slide, please. So I will touch upon each one of these factors individually now. So human capital. Now I believe that encouraging young talent is very very important for our businesses these days. So when I am hiring, we have a mix of employees in our company. Some are middle aged like I am. Then when we hire young talent also. So what I feel is that there was a survey which was carried out in 2016, and the survey results were that three-fourths of the millennials, like 75% of the millennials, would want to work for companies with a good ESG score, with a good environmental, social, and governance score. The survey reflected that they were even willing to take a pay cut out of their current jobs and move on to a company which believes more in sustainable business practices. They believe in giving back to the society as much as they believe in making money for themselves. So the way I interpreted this survey was that whenever an organization hires employees, we should also include it in their KPIs, how they would be contributing towards the social fabric of our society. So the sustainable development goals that the company sets for itself in its strategy should be filtered down to the employee level as well, and they should be made part of their KPIs, their key performance indicators as well. And you will see that this would generate innovation. Now, every company, we have so much competition around these days. Unless and until we innovate and rediscover our business, our market niche, we will be stagnant. So what I have seen is that if you include sustainability goals as well in the employees, it encourages innovation. They think of new ideas on how to achieve sustainability for their company and for their communities. Now, the same survey, it shows that 48% of businesses use sustainability to boost innovation. So it's proven that if you include sustainable development goals within your organization's goals, as well as filter it down, of course, to the key employees within your organization, it will give you an advantage of innovation. So we must give youngsters a chance. I learn from them. The new ideas they generate, they sometimes figure out the way of doing the same thing in such a way that it would save time, because they come in with fresh ideas, with better IT practices than us. So they gain from my experience, and I equally gain back from what they have to give in terms of their new ideas. So people should not feel insecure by bringing in new talent. We all have our own place in the organization. We should encourage young talent, and we should encourage them to bring forth their ideas, and not just kill their ideas just because we are just so set in our own ways. So also at the human capital level, it is very important to hire the right person for the right job. I come currently from a family business, so we have different companies. We work in the textile sector, insurance sector, construction, automobile sector. So here I would always preach, and my focus is always to hire the person who is duly skilled and who can actually give back to the job that we have been giving to him, rather than hiring somebody just to please someone, or hiring someone with this intention that, okay, if I hire somebody, I know they would be working in my favor, they would not be challenging the decisions that I make. No, that's not the right approach. So you need to hire the right person for the right job. It is very, very important for one to have sustainable businesses. Otherwise, you will the employee that who's been hired just for this, just because we know that person, and he or she is not good for that job, they are going to feel discouraged, humiliated in board meetings, because they will not be able to deliver, and if they don't deliver, your company suffers. So for sustainable growth, you need to hire the right person for the right job. Compassion, this is another very, very important element. Now, when all of us were hit by COVID, yes, so what our government did was, in that time, so we have about 900 labor, including staff, in our various factories, in each of the factory. So what the government of Pakistan did when COVID hit in 2020 was that they started issuing loans to companies at minimal rates. So for example, if the market rate was 7%, they started issuing loans at 1% to companies who would commit not to fire their employees, not to fire even a single employee during the COVID days. So our group companies took that advantage. We took that offer. We kept everybody on our payroll for 1 year, even though, so our mills, they run in shifts. So there are 8 hours shifts, 3 shifts of 8 hours each. And we have skilled labor. We have trained our labor. We did not fire a single person, because if you fire one person, it's like affecting family, one whole family. So we took advantage of this loan offer. We did not fire anybody, and it also worked towards our advantage, this compassion, because after a year and a half, when the business became back to normal and we started running all our 3 shifts as before, we did not have to hire new workforce, train them, go through the whole procedure. No, we already had our skilled labor on our payroll sitting, and they joined the company back smoothly, and our factory started running smoothly as before COVID. So this compassion, it increases loyalty within an organization, and it goes both ways. For the employee, it's advantages because they don't lose their jobs, and also for the company, because you don't lose your skilled labor. You can always have them back on your payroll. So compassion, it would also attract new people, and it would attract good talent if you are compassionate. Could we please move on to the next slide? Thank you. So the next factor which is important for sustainable businesses is external surroundings and our stakeholders. It is very, very important to have a consultative approach, to have an all-inclusive approach while running our businesses. So for example, we have one company which is, it's a factory. It runs in a very remote area of a province called Khyber Pakhtunkhwa in Pakistan. The city's name is Bannu. So there, the youngsters, they are very, very limited opportunities for youngsters to go out and play in a football ground, or there are very narrow streets and gullies where they practice cricket, or they play football. And also what we have done is our mill premises, there is a huge lawn or a huge ground outside of the mill premises. So we have invited the community children to play there, to play whichever sport that they want. We also have national champions coming out of that province and that city as well. So we are involving our community children to use our factory grounds. So when we are setting up unit 2, they will be feeling a part of this whole community. So we can, so with community support, there are less chances of project disruption. They feel part of your organization as well. Similarly, because of COVID, the supply chain was affected for most of the companies, at least in Pakistan where I work. So where we used to order raw material from abroad, there was shortage of containers, there was port congestion, so our supply chain started breaking. So what we did was that we started looking for local suppliers, so people who grow, for example, we have a textile mill, we started looking for cotton growers locally within the same province, within our country, rather than importing it from outside. We started looking at import substitution. There's another company whose board I serve on, like Sagi mentioned, the Murray Brewery Company Limited. They import barley from Australia, but because of the supply chain issues, we had disruption there as well because of COVID and lack of containers. So they started looking at local growers. So if you involve the community locally, your supply chain would run smoothly. So that's another sustainable way of running your business as well. The 4 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle, rebuy. We can't stress enough on that. Now we have one mill, like I mentioned, it's a woolen mill. We make woolen shawls, woolen coats, woolen fabric. So in that mill, one of our board members, who's a female, she gave the idea, why don't we develop biodegradable material, so something which one can wear, and then if you discard it, it does not harm the environment. So we are looking at sustainable products within our existing companies, which have been running from the 1970s and 60s, bringing in new ideas of sustainability. The company, there's a bottling plant whose board I serve on. What they do is that, for example, they offer that if you return, so their juices are filled in glass bottles. So what they do is that they have this offer that if you return an empty glass bottle, on your next purchase you get so many rupees off or this percent discount. So they buy back their empty glass bottles and recycle them to rebottle them. So you rebuy your own product, so that reduces waste, and it is beneficial both for the company as well as the environment. So that's another way of doing sustainable business. And I always say, one must be an example for others to follow. We need to leave our social footprint. So here in Pakistan, it's not mandatory for companies to make a sustainability report, but I would encourage all the entrepreneurs that are listening in on this talk, or people who are working for companies, to develop, if you're an entrepreneur, to develop a newsletter and talk about the sustainable business practices that you have implemented during this year. Record it, document it, give it out with your company brochures, leave social footprints for others to follow. And people now believe in investing in companies which have good ESG practices. There are statistics and data which show, and I'm going to cover a case study as well on how it actually worked well for Brazil. So if you leave social footprints and you let others know, you lead by example, that this is the sustainable business practice that you followed, and these are the long term benefits that you as a company, as an entrepreneur, also receive, and this is how you give back to the planet and the environment and the social circle around you. So I always say, encourage, document all the ESG practices that you have done within a year and issue a leaflet out towards the end of the year. Next slide, please. So now we'll be covering of course, the one of the very important factors in sustainable business is to have sustainable cash flows and profits, not just have profits. Yes, this slide. So not just have profits for the first year or the second year, and then you start thinking, oh my goodness, I'm running out of cash flows. No. So we need, for sustainable businesses, we need sustainable cash flows. We need sustainable profits. So what I have tried to do is I have tried to develop a framework showing a step-by-step approach, no matter which business you belong to, whether you're an SME, small and medium enterprise, whether you're an entrepreneur, you're a single member company, you're a listed company, you're an unlisted private companies, these steps would work well with any business setup. So the first step is commitment. You need to have commitment at the top level for you to be able to develop sustainable business practices. The commitment has to be there. Secondly, we need to develop certain set of policies and procedures which should be applicable to all and sundry within the organization. So we should, if we are a family business, if you are a family business and you set up policies, these should be equally applicable to the employees who belong to the family as well as to the non-family members. So you can't differentiate and say that, okay, this is a family member, they're one of the owners, so these policies don't apply. No, your HR policies, your accounting and finance policies, all the policies should be applicable across the board. There's one policy which I must talk about, which is very, very important, is the whistleblower protection policy. So if you look around the world, always it is the employee or people who work within the business, they know more about the company than your stakeholders, than your customers, than your suppliers, even then they know more about the company, what is happening in the company, more than the board. All right, so it is very important to have a whistleblowing protection policy. Now what do I mean by that is, if there is an employee who sees this something wrong is happening, the CFO is doing something, or somebody higher up in the hierarchy is not following the company's goals the way they're supposed to follow, so there should be a mechanism for that person to confide in someone and to speak up about what wrong is happening in the company, with the protection committed to it by the company, that he or she, the whistleblower, will be given full protection from the backlash of the person against whom he's reporting. So the person reporting, the whistleblower, need to have their proofs ready with them, and the company needs to ensure that they are protected from the backlash which was going to be received by, if that person is reporting some malpractice of a person which works in a higher grade than him or her. So in Tesco's, again, the whistleblower spoke about the finance irregularities, and then they curbed it. Enron may not have happened had good whistleblower protection mechanisms been put in place. So policies and procedures are very important for you to have a sustainable business. Then we come to the board. So if you are a company, the law requires you to have a board. So in some listed companies, the requirement in Pakistan is to have a board of directors of 7 people. Please take me back to the slide which was showing the steps. So for your board, it is very, very important for you to have a well diversified board. If you could just take me back to the slide I was on. Yes, thank you. So it's very important to have a well diversified board. Now, diversification not necessarily means only gender diversity, it means gender and skill diversity. So if you are, for example, in a mining business, it's not, it's not advisable to have all 7 members of your board who come from the mining background. No, you need a diversified skill set. You need somebody who knows mining very well. You need somebody who has good IT governance knowledge. You need someone who is financially astute, sound. You need maybe a lawyer on the board. So you need to have a good set of diversified board, be it in gender and also skill wise. Then executives. So there are 2 key people, in my view, who can contribute towards sustainable businesses. One is the chairman of the board. You need to have a strong chair of the board to lead the board strategically in the correct direction. And you need to have a strong chief executive, which is appointed by the board. If you have these 2 strong people in your company, there is no doubt that your company is going to achieve the results in a sustainable manner, which the board has envisaged it to do, and which the shareholders have entrusted the board to do. So the board appoints the chief executive appoints the executives in turn. So one should make sure that one appoints executives who are competent enough and who can actually deliver, like hire the right people for the right job, like I initially mentioned. Then internal controls and risk management. It is very, very important for any organization, whether it's an SME or whichever level it is at, to have proper risk management procedures. Before one invests in a new market or in a new product, one needs to do a risk analysis by your risk manager, who must be working in the company, to see what is the risk of me investing in this market or bringing in this new product. What are the mitigants for addressing this risk, and also, does my company have the risk appetite to enter this risk or not? If you have good risk management procedures, you will take decisions, well informed decisions, before entering new markets and new products or any other new decision, and then your company can run in a sustainable manner, rather than just getting a setback without doing your homework and just entering a market thinking that, oh, because so and so was successful, I can also be successful in this market. No, you need to have proper risk management procedures. and internal control procedures in place. By internal control, I mean, for example, if you're in the finance section, the person who's writing the check, that check should be checked by another person, whether it's your internal auditor or somebody else in the finance. So all the authority should not be given to one person. The person signing the check should not be the one paying, should not be the one checking the invoices. So you need to have delegation of authorities and org chart, at the organization level, delegating and dividing responsibility and authority between various levels. Accountability, it is very, very important for everybody to be held accountable for their actions in the organizations. We have our half yearly review. We also have our annual review happening. So towards the end of the half year or end of the year, we must sit down and monitor and evaluate ourselves and see, okay, I achieved this target, could I have done it in a better way? I did not achieve my target, what led to that, how can I improve, and how can I think of other ways of achieving that target, where did I go wrong? So it's very, very important for us to be accountable for what we have done, and to monitor and evaluate ourselves and be evaluated by our superiors. Then once you monitor and evaluate towards the end of the year, again you go and look at your goals. What were your organization goals? Do they need to be reset? Are the 17 sustainable development goals, how many of these were a part of your organization goals, and how many of these could we achieve? It needn't be an annual plan, it could be a 5-year plan. There's a company which developed a 5-year plan for SDG goals, and I'm going to talk about that in the next slide as well. So if you have this framework in place, this will assist you and help you towards establishing sustainable business practices within your business, irrespective of the level of your organization. Next slide, please. If you could move, yes, thank you. The next one, please. So like I mentioned, the next slide, please. Yeah, so these are the policies like I mentioned. Now in the previous slide you saw that I had divided companies or businesses in family businesses, SMEs, single member companies. So there are different policies which are applicable to different companies. For example, if you have a family business, you need to have a family constitution which sets the family dynamics within the family constitution. You need to have a family council. So these policies can be structured for each and every organization individually, the sector that it belongs to. The HR manual, the whistleblowing procedures which I mentioned, the accounting manual, the org chart, the structure of the organization which would give you the delegation of authorities, they are all can be framed to taking care of specifics of each organization. Next slide, please. Yes, so these are the 17 SDG goals. I'm not going to delve into them because in the WXPO's initial session, the launch session, these were touched upon in detail. Move to the next slide, please. The reason I have these on here is so I can link it, yes, to the next slide. So there's a company called Rumo. It's a Brazilian logistics company. Like I mentioned that the organization at its strategic level needs to have these SDG goals. So they made a 5-year plan. They have 10 sustainable development goals covering the 17, not all of the 17, but most of the 17 SDG goals within their own organizational goals. And then they have filtered these down to the employees. Now, for example, the first goal is ensuring the safety of teams and processes and operations. So they have linked the SDG goal number 3 and 8 to their one goal. So you can have one goal covering more than one of the SDG goals. So what they have done is that their incident recovery index, they have reduced it to, they are saying that over the next 5 years, their incident and recovery in the injury index would be 0.15 on the average. So they have, what they are trying to do, so they are promoting health and safety of their employees by putting in targets. So every goal should have a target, or they also have gender diversity targets. So they have written, I don't think if it is, if you can maybe enlarge the screen, you'll be able to see it better. But so they have actually, if they have said that they are going to increase women representation within their company, so they have given goals. By this year they're going to have this much women representation, by this much by this year they're going to have this percentage. So their goals are actually time bound and quantified. So this is how they, from the organization level, they have filtered their goals, sustainable development goals, down to their employee levels. Next slide, please. So yes, so we've spoken about sustainability and in businesses. So this is the last thing which I'll be touching upon is, this is kind of a business case that, okay, we are all talking about sustainability and excuse me, we're all talking about sustainability. So what's the business case for it? What's in it for me? Has anybody achieved something from having such different ideas and views than the norm? So yes. So if I look at the capital market sector in Brazil, they have a ready board. Their stock exchange is called Bovespa, but they have included a new listings a section within the ready board Bovespa, the Brazilian stock exchange. It goes by the name of Novo Mercado, which means new market. So the different thing about Novo Mercado is that this is one platform where the companies can choose to be listed. It's not mandatory. And this some companies go get listed on the ready board, which has less stringent listing requirements. So we would think that why should one list one's company on Novo Mercado and not on the ready board? But they have proven this theory wrong. Novo Mercado has additional disclosure requirements in terms of governance, the G part of the ESG. So it is voluntary for companies to list on Novo Mercado, and the lady Maria Helena Santana, she was their listings executive officer. She was given this idea to launch this platform by the chairman and the chief executive of the Brazilian stock market, and she ran with this idea. They started this concept in 2000, and in 2001 there was hardly only one company listed there, and people discouraged them and said, why would anyone want to have more stringent policies to follow, more transparent procedures, more independent directors on the board by choice and get listed on Novo Mercado, whereas the ready board doesn't require us to go through all this hassle and I can get my company listed there. So why should we go through all this hassle? But Miss Maria Helena Santana, she held on to her ground, and by 2007, there were over 100 companies listed on Novo Mercado. Next slide, please. So no, so this shows that yes. So next slide, please. So next one. So this shows the journey of Novo Mercado from the year 2000 to 2021. We now have the biggest renewable energy platform in Brazil, a company by the name of Oren. They have also chosen to get listed on Novo Mercado and not on the Brazilians ready market, because they have seen that investors would invest more in the companies which have good ESG practices, sustainable development practices, than those companies which are listed on the ready board Bovespa stock exchange. So companies choose to list on Novo Mercado by choice, and the lady Helena, she has proven to the world that if you remain persistent and you bring in new ideas and you show the value of good governance, of disclosure, of transparency to companies, investors would want to invest in such companies more than the ones who are not that good with their sustainable development practices. Next slide, please. So the final takeaway from this talk is, and I'm going to end my talk here, and I'll be happy to take questions and answers, that companies are looking to invest in companies with a higher ESG score. So we have statistics backing this. We have the Haukama S&P index, which shows that the companies which have good ESG practices, they outperform the market. Their indices outperform those companies which don't have such good environmental, social, and governance and sustainable scores. So the expectations are increasing, and will your company be able to keep up through innovation? Yes, it can. Through innovation and through leaving your footprints and through documenting your journey of ESG, you can achieve wonders, and you can achieve a sustainable business by including good environmental, social, governance practices throughout the chain of your organizational structure. Thank you. I would end here and would be happy to take any questions which you may have.
Thanks so much, Jahanara. While everyone is posting their questions, I would love to do a little key takeaways from your session that I took away today.
Okay.
While you mentioned that leaving a legacy is very, very key, not only for employers like us, but also the employees who join us. So I think that's very interesting in our HR. I was just noticing that that's something that we should definitely
Yeah.
add very strongly. And I think across the globe, everyone talks about going global and increasing businesses. I loved your idea, what you said about to look local, to look more local, and join a sustainable ecosystem into your business, which is also local and which is more comfortable to
Yes.
work with. Janara, I strongly believe that we have to be the change that we want to see in the world. And as you rightly said, when people retention is key, also the policies and the processes that you create in your organization comes from the top. And
Yeah.
I think there should be more sessions that we know where we can talk about how, because when we are seeing the initial mix of our group, we have more of entrepreneurs and single member families. So I think that is very key on how policies and processes you start creating a legacy for the complete business. That's very interesting. There are a few questions coming up, but are you okay if I start with mine first?
Sure.
You mentioned about sustainability and good corporate governance. Can you give us a little bit more ideas on how we can link them more strongly? Because a lot of SMEs or single led member companies or entrepreneurs are still not there to reach about talking about good corporate governance. And because they feel that they're still small and that is applicable only to big companies. Would you agree with this comment, or how do you find they both should be linked strongly?
No, I feel that, like I mentioned, that everybody, whether we are a single member company, whether we are an entrepreneur, everyone needs good governance. We can govern ourselves as well. All right. So before, for example, if you are a one person entrepreneur, so all the internal controls and all the procedures that I spoke about, you must be thinking, well, how does it apply to me? Well, it does apply to you. So if you're an entrepreneur and you are bringing in a new product, just because somebody else has brought this new product, doesn't the same product doesn't mean that your product would also succeed. You need to do the homework behind it. You need to, like I mentioned, the risk management procedures. You need to check yourself. So you're bringing this product, what is the edge of this product? What does it have more? What is the unique selling point, the USP of this product? Does it have a better USP than the one that's already there? So you need to apply all these policies and procedures to yourself. You need to be the risk manager. You need to check the risk. You need to be the board. You need to strategize before you bring that product to the market. So all the steps that I mentioned there, you are that person. So put yourself in their shoes. Consider yourself. You are the board. You are the strategy maker. You are the chief executive. You are executing the strategy. All right. So, but maybe it becomes too much for just one person to look at all these aspects. How about you just get an advisor? Engage an advisor to advise you. We can't know everything. I don't know everything, so I would bring in an advisor to help me in the area in which I lack. So I believe that governance applies to, even though it's called corporate governance in the sense of corporates, but no, it's governance, and it applies to all businesses, irrespective of how big or how small they are.
Wonderful. I'll take the first question from the audience. Nisreen is saying, how do you show you will be sustainable even if you're a startup?
Yes, so it would depend on the sustainability goals that you have set for yourself. So for example, if you are a startup, um, what are you using? Are you
Healthcare.
using a
She's in the healthcare
polythene?
sector. Yeah.
Sorry.
She's in the
Sorry.
healthcare sector.
Oh, okay. So if you're a startup, you can start, by showing the green side, the environment side of the ESG. You can start off by showing that you're not using polythene bags, you're using recyclable bags. You can start off by showing that you believe in sustainability of the planet, even if you are a startup, in whichever way you can. So you can do recycling, you can encourage recycling, and you can do that.
Yeah.
So that's how
I
it.
like what you said, that you first look at the 17 goals, understand
Yes.
them, choose what is best apt for your business, and move
Hmm.
forward. I think that's the
Yes.
best way. Yeah. Dana
Yes.
has what are the best practices for ESG in the fintech industry?
Yes. So, if I tell you, I know a little bit about IT governance as well. So, what we would see, like for example, here, what we would see for the IT industry is we make sure that our cloud servers are not located in countries. There are certain countries. I can only speak on behalf of Pakistan, where I'm working now. There are certain countries which are on the banned countries list in Pakistan. You can't have your cloud servers based in those countries. So, in case the regulator finds out that your business is being backed up by a cloud server which is based in one of the countries, or which are on the banned list in Pakistan, your whole business will shut down. So this is how you can sort of think before you step into fintech or the IT industry. So look at the basics. What are the basic requirements of the country's laws and regulations? So you should need to first fit your business model within the regulatory environment that permits the fintech structure within the country that you're operating in.
That's lovely. The other one is from Manushika, and she says, "Thanks, Janara. Human capital is definitely investing for long term. Please advise on few tips on how to retain good talent as people leave jobs much sooner than it was earlier."
That's true, Manushika. Even I, here in Pakistan, we are facing the same thing. And the other day, somebody was having the same discussion with me. One of my employees, we trained him. He left. He actually moved 3 jobs in 1 year. So it's everywhere. People are jumping and jumping. Now, to retain good talent? Each time an employee leaves, you need to have an exit interview with them, irrespective of whether you are a one person organization, 2 person, 3 person. Tell the employee to be very open. You need to be approachable as a manager to the employee. They have to be very open about them. Why are they thinking of leaving you? Could you provide them that facility? Maybe it could be that they need some flexible hours. Maybe that's the reason they are leaving. Could you be out of compassion, could you provide them those flexible hours? So one needs to know the reason of why that employee is moving. Now there was a very good employee, like I mentioned, who left my job. He was working for me and he moved 3 different positions. And at the exit interview, I told him, what is it, the salary, is it the working conditions? You let me know. I would like to retain you because you have spent 8 months with me and I'm very happy with your work. So his reason for leaving was that he wanted to work abroad. All right, so he did not want to work in this country, so that I couldn't offer him. So in the exit interview, you would know exactly why the employee is leaving. Are you able to accommodate that person's request? And if they are, if you would like to retain them, I would say be flexible and accommodate them. And even if they leave, they should leave with a good note. There should be no hard feelings, because wherever they join, the world is round. Wherever they join, they should be speaking well of the organization that they have left. So we should make even their exit conditions good for them.
That's wonderful. I think with this, we've taken 3 questions and 4, obviously. And thanks so much, Jahanara, for your lovely
Thank you
time.
so much.
I'm
Thank
sure
you.
people will reach out to you on LinkedIn. And it was amazing to have you on our second webinar series, How to
Thank you.
Build a Coherent Framework for Sustainable Businesses. And I'm sure we'll be here again talking soon about this. I think there's another last question, if you're okay to take it.
Sure.
Is there any suggestion for women engineers coming in Dubai from Italy on how to
I think people
site?
who are working in the UAE would be better able to
Yeah,
answer that. And what I know is I worked in the UAE for 10 years. There's a lot of woman or man. They did not, the 10 years that I was there, there was no distinction between a woman and a man. I'm a woman chartered accountant. I had colleagues who were male chartered accountants. So if you're a female engineer leaving from Italy and coming to UAE, that there is uh, I don't see any reason for them to treat you differently. So there's UAE, the construction sector is developing at such a fast rate. One day there is one road being built, and the next morning you wake up and there's yet another road being built, or a building being built. So I think there's a lot of scope for women engineers, women and men both, in the UAE. That's how I would answer your question.
yeah, I totally agree with you because seeing what UAE is doing right now, the sustainable goals of the UAE, we are actually working very strongly towards 3 sustainable goals. And there is actually no poverty, zero hunger, and also gender equality. And so I think that plays a very very key role in the country itself. And that's a very interesting thing. While we're talking about businesses and entrepreneurs, I love how even countries work towards SDG goals and set up their temperament for it. We do have another session for that when the government, we have some government people who will come in and speak about it. But yeah, but thanks so much, Jahanara, for everything, and look
Thank
forward
you.
to having you being a part of the WXPO program always. Really
Thank you
appreciate
very
it.
much.
Thank you
Thanks
so
a
much.
lot. Thank you
Take
for
care.
all to the audience and to your team, Sagi. Thanks a lot for having me.
Thank you so much.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye.